Hi everybody, and welcome to our YouTube channel. We are continuing through the 32 sword form. We are in the third sequence. We are on movement number 19, blow the dust into the wind, or dust blows into the wind. It's also referred to as parry with the left bow stance. And what you'll see is with these next three movements, 19, 20, and 21, they're the same movement name. They're just, depending on which foot is forward in the bow stance, called. So you'll see dust blown into the wind, or dust blows into the wind left, dust blows into the wind right, dust blows into the wind left. And so there's a left, right, left, because you're going to go from a left lunge stance to a right lunge stance to a left lunge stance. But we'll break that down in each individual movement and you'll see. So this one is the left bow stance forward. And what you're doing is you're continuing through here and coming through from your white ape bears the fruit movement, the previous movement with this one. And what we're doing here is we're going to bring the sword back and we're going to come forward with the left hand coming up to block and the right hand coming forward to parry. Now, this is a parry block. What that means is the waist is turning the sword, not the wrist. And so we'll talk about this when we get to the common mistakes with this. But this movement here is a blocking deflection strike. So your sword is at a 45 degrees down movement. You are blocking and deflecting something off to the side. Let me show it to you from the front so you get this perspective. So we come from here, and then we come back, up, lift, and deflect. And so you see this waist turning here, and the degree of angle here is 45 degrees. That's 45 to the front, 45 to the side, and 45 down. So this is the optimal deflection angle to take something away from you here. So you've blocked up and you're blocking a second strike coming here from the side. It has to cross the center line here, so your arm comes across the body. The strike is going to come here and then deflect down through there. So that's the application side of this. But the movement actually then looks, again, coming from this direction here. And you see, left bow stance, my left foot is in front, stepping forward. And again, this is a parry block, which means it's not a swing the sword. Look at my waist here. It's not this, it's this. So this is very much like Fair Lady or some of the other traditional movements that you see in Taiji. We're moving the sword with our waist here to deflect the strike, not to intercept and cut. So the sword tip doesn't move faster than the handle. It all moves at the same pace because it's just here to deflect off. So common mistakes that we'll see with this one is, again, you're coming from a transition, and I'll do it facing the camera here. So common mistakes you'll see with this one is you are shifting your weight, turning out, turning the right foot out, and then coming forward and through. So we've already talked about this is a waist movement, not a cutting of the sword movement. You're not cutting anything. You're leaving the sword out here at that angle so that the strike that was coming forward towards your body has somewhere to deflect off. You need to deflect it off. And that 45-degree angle is the best angle to not absorb into the sword, but to deflect it off to the side. So common mistakes with this one are bringing the sword forward like it's a cut, right? Not doing here. Or your angles are being off. As we said, we're talking a 45-degree angle. It's 45 going forward, 45 going down, and 45 going to the side with the angle of the blade. So you don't want to end up like this. Again, my front is exposed. You don't want it to be too far over here, or the sword pointing forward, pointing here, pointing up. It's a deflection here. The other common mistakes is the forgetting that there's a left hand engaged here. This hand comes across here and comes up through. So not bringing this hand up to block, or not blocking properly with this, as we've talked in some of the other videos, very important with this particular movement. Stepping becomes also paramount. You don't step straight, you don't step too far out. It's a good mountain climbing stance. There's a little bit of gap between your front foot, bent knee, your back leg straight but not locked, turning and sweeping into deflect is the movement here. Your attention is forward because the strike is coming forward at you. You just need to get the sword in the way to deflect it off. So it ricochets off to the side, and that's the movement here. Block, block, and then we'll move into the next movement. Other common mistakes you may see with this one is not being upright. So we're not twisting and angling the body here. We're upright, we're in a good mountain climbing stance. This could be any other movement. The positioning of our body is the same. It just so happens in this case, we've twisted and come in here to block. So you see my shoulders still square and over my hips, still stable, good stance. I'm not wobbling in any direction. I'm not leaning too far forward, leaning too far back. It's the sword is going to do all the work here. I'm going to move one thing out of the way and deflect the other one out of the way as part of that. So good angle will be a good deflection. So the application we've talked about a little bit here, we're moving one strike up and out of the way. So again, a good block here, and this is climbing up on top, so you could grab if you needed to. So bring that across the body and then turning the waist here to deflect. Bring that sword forward, but not so far forward that it's straight, not so far that it's to the side. It's at an angle. You're deflecting down and moving the attack off to the side. That's the application. Block and block here, and then you'll move forward and go into the other movements. So let's do the before and after. Before and after. So the before movement on this one is white ape. So we'll do this in this direction so you get a feeling for what's going to happen. So we'll go from here, turn out, cut forward, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to turn the sword over and come up for another block in the other direction. And so same basic movement, but we're stepping forward and going into a right lunge. And so you'll see this one is dust blows into the wind right, as opposed to the movement we're currently on, which is dust blows in the wind to the left. It's simple enough if you think about which foot is forward, and that's how they name these. So just keep that in mind as you go through and do that. So let's follow along with this particular movement. We're just going to start from here, and we're going to transition, and I'll do it 5 times in this direction, and then I'll do it 5 times facing the camera so that you'll get the perspective. Let's try it 5 times towards the front. Watching, follow along and practice hard.